The American River Bike Trail, officially called the Jedediah Smith Memorial Trail, is one of the longest bike trails in the United States, running 32 miles long from Old Town Sacramento, California, all the way up to Beals Point, north of Folsom, California. First marked out in the late 1800s by the capital city wheelmen, it existed for years as a cinder path. In fact, here we see two early members of the wheelmen along the trail near Folsom, with these photos taken between 1900 and 1909. Due to the growing popularity of the automobile, the trail eventually fell into disrepair, but with the bike boom of the 1970s, it once again gained attention, was paved, and became the amazing trail that it is today. In this, the first of our four-part series on the trail, we'll be taking a look at the trail's northernmost section, riding a 12-mile loop starting in Folsom, going up to Beals Point, back down across Folsom Crossing, and returning along the Johnny Cash Trail. We're starting off at a free 3-hour parking lot located close to the corner of Leidesdorf and Gold Lake, but on most days, weekdays at least, there should be plenty of available street parking. The lot is just across the street from Karen's Bakery, a traditional stop for lots of cyclists riding the trail. There's also a Mike's Bikes right behind Karen's for any last-minute cycling needs. Since we're starting right in the heart of historic Old Town Folsom, let's take a look around before we begin our ride. You could easily spend a day just walking around Folsom, taking in the several museums, shops, and restaurants, and soaking up the Old West atmosphere. Folsom, California, originally known as Granite City, was founded in the 1850s as one of the many gold towns that sprung up during the rush of 1849. And with the addition of a railroad connection to Sacramento, the town survived, thrived, and prospered while many gold rush towns simply vanished. Oh, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that this establishment on Sutter Street, known as Sweet Dozen Cones, serves up ice cream cones that look like this, and like this, and even like this. And if you don't want a cone, you can always get a soft serve ice cream sandwich served on a glazed donut. Alright, let's move along and maybe we'll pick up a cone at the end of the ride. Behind the facade of a Wells Fargo assay office is the Folsom History Museum, open Fridays through Sundays, and highly recommended. I once saw an amazing antique bicycle exhibition there. This is the new location for Scott's Seafood, a longtime favorite for area seafood lovers, which recently moved from its old location and which now sits across from the majestic roundabout, part of the Folsom Railroad Museum. Alright, time to start the ride. Now there are several different routes you can take here, but we are going to cross the street towards Karen's Bakery and take what's known as the New Bridge. Mike's Bikes is now on our right. Make a left and you will see the trail here. We are now crossing the New Bridge. In the distance through the grating, you can now see the Rainbow Bridge and the historic Folsom Truss Bridge, which we will be seeing more of later. It's probably worth stopping and getting off your bike or trike or whatever you're riding here to stand up and just take in this amazing view of Folsom. At the end of the new bridge, we come to a switchback which has rather tight turns and can be very interesting if you're riding a long wheelbase trike. As you'll see, my VTX does not do that well here. When you're coming down from the switchback and you're getting onto the main trail, watch out for bike traffic on your right. If you were to make a right here, you would be rolling onto the historic Truss Bridge and then heading back into Folsom, but again, we'll check that out later. In the distance here up to the right, you can see the outer stone walls of Folsom Prison. Over the 32 miles of the American River Trail, it is mostly flat, but on this section moving up towards Beals Point, there is a fair amount of climbing. We're now approaching the Folsom Crossing Bridge, completed in 2009. When they shut down the road that went over the top of the dam, there was no longer a way to get across this section of the river, but now with the Folsom Crossing Bridge, we are able to do that. And now that the Folsom Crossing Bridge links to the Johnny Cash Trail, we're able to do a pretty neat little loop here. But before we head over to the Johnny Cash Trail, we're going to go all the way up to Beals Point to take a look at Folsom Lake. Here we're approaching Auburn Folsom Boulevard. You can see the small shopping center across the street. There's a nice bike shop in there, Folsom Bike, and a Subway if you're hungry. And just up the street, once we make a right, you'll see on your left a 7-Eleven in case you're craving a Slurpee. You may have noticed all the concertina wire on top of the fencing here along the trail. That's a consequence of 9/11. I guess they're worried about a terrorist attack on the dam, so they've gone a little crazy with the security. This is the northern terminus of the trail. There's a flat levee road here that affords some great views of the lake, And if you have a mountain bike, the trail does continue as gravel and single track for a few miles. This time of year, the lake would normally be coming halfway up those trees in the foreground, and the whole area would be swarming with bathers, lifeguards, and lake lovers enjoying the water. But as we're in another drought year, we have something here that looks more like a desert than a lake. We're headed back down to Folsom Crossing, but first let's make a left turn and check out the Beals Point recreation area. In a non-COVID, non-drought year, this snack shop has some pretty decent snow cones, and these bathrooms are some of the nicest anywhere along the trail. There is a large parking lot up here where you can park and start your ride, but it does cost money, so I would recommend just parking somewhere down in Folsom and saving that money for one of those giant ice cream cones. Right in front of me here, before I make the left turn back towards Folsom Crossing, is a large camping area if you want to come up with an RV or a tent. And this is where the long climb up to Beals Point really pays off. You get a fantastic long downhill. careful here because if you go straight, you will miss the exit for Folsom Crossing. You want to make a right turn here, like I just did, and we will head up the Folsom Crossing Bridge. One of the nice things about the Folsom Crossing Bridge is it affords some amazing views of the massive Folsom Dam. Completed in 1955, the dam stands over 100 meters high. And here you can see that despite it being a drought year, we do have some water remaining in the lake. After the climb up Folsom Crossing, you're going to want to make a left here and get onto the Johnny Cash Trail. Note the cool bridge designed to look like prison guard towers. And here we get another nice long downhill run. We're right about to pass under Prison Road, which leads to the front gate of Folsom Prison. There's a segment of the bike trail here off to the right that goes right into the front gate of Folsom Prison, but it's not for the general public, only prison personnel. If you'd like to take a look at the front gate of Folsom Prison, I recommend doing it with your car, as the road in there is very narrow with no bike lane and quite hairy for a bike or a trike. They also have a pretty cool little museum that's worth checking out while you're there. We are now approaching the Robbers Ravine Bridge, so named because the ravine below the bridge was at one time in the 1850s a hideout for the notorious Bell Gang. A raid of the ravine by local law enforcement ended the gang's reign of terror, but gave us an interesting story to go along with a beautiful bridge. The only potentially dangerous thing about this area these days, besides the rattlesnakes, is the wet wood bridge planking on a rainy day. Here we see the location of the annual Folsom Rodeo, which is also sometimes turned into a cyclocross track, and we're also right next to the Folsom Zoo. Be careful here because it's easy to miss this turnoff. You want to look for this black metal fencing and make a right onto the trail. Normally I would make a left here and head back into Old Town Folsom to finish the ride, but I am going to make a right turn to show you the historic truss bridge. The truss bridge was originally erected in 1883, but after the construction of the Rainbow Bridge in 1917, which stands right next to it, it was deemed unnecessary and pretty much left to rot until 1930, when it was dismantled and moved to Walker, California in Siskiyou County, where it served as a crossing for the Klamath River. In the 1990s, Siskiyou County decided they wanted to replace the bridge, so Folsom took the opportunity to return the bridge to its original site, even using the original 1883 stone abutments that were amazingly still in place. In April of 2000, the bridge was returned to its original location 70 years after it had been moved. We've turned around and doubled back on the truss bridge. It's only a few hundred feet to a couple of short street crossings and a short straight shot back to Karen's Bakery and the parking lot where we started. Thanks for hanging with us, and be sure to catch the upcoming parts 2, 3, and 4 of this series on the American River Trail. For part 2, we'll be riding from this spot in Folsom down to Sunrise Boulevard and back again. Part 3 will be Sunrise down to Sacramento State University, and part 4 will be Sac State down to Old Town Sacramento. Oh, I forgot, I have to go get one of those ice cream cones. See you out there.